Welcome to Blue Talks.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm excited to be here at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver. It's my alma mater. So there wasn't these downtown campuses when I came here. We were up on the mountain, so weather-dependent school. No internet at that time. I know I'm aging myself, but anyway. So US companies lose over $359 billion every year due to workplace conflict. It's not just about the money. What about the invisible toll, the human one? We silently suffer, we change jobs, partners, cities, on, each time hoping and wishing this time things will be different. Nothing changes, the pattern repeats, and we're right back to where we started. It's like we're carrying this heavy backpack filled with bricks of tension, fear, resentment, and we lug it with us into every team meeting, family dinner, and to bed at night. No one's taught us how to take it off. Conflict? It's inevitable. It's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're human. And it's not just about the workplace. What about the silent battles at home? The conflict we bury, simmering beneath the surface until, boom, it explodes like Mount Vesuvius, often at the wrong time, in the wrong place. We self-sabotage. Relationships end on a bad note. As humans, we're not taught how to deal with that internal pressure. Conflict, it's not a curse. It's a doorway, a powerful one to connection, clarity, and transformation. And it can seem hard, especially in the workplace, where your livelihood depends upon it, to stand up and stand out. What if I told you there was another way? Years ago, I was invited to serve on a committee. I gratefully accepted. Partway through the meeting, it was like the air got heavier. People were still smiling. An idea was presented. The facilitator leaned in. Why do you want to do it that way? Isn't this way much better? Someone else stood up. Isn't that how we used to do it years ago? The facilitator looked me in the eyes. Robyn, don't you think this is the better option? What do I say to that? Right. They've already decided and they want us to rubber stamp it. Someone else, fed up with the whole situation, stood up. This is BS, and left the meeting. I realized that I lost respect for the process. It was clear. We weren't partners, we were pawns. And it taught me that when you don't feel seen or heard, trust not only cracks, it crumbles. And with it, engagement, productivity, and our willingness to show up. Conflict isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the heavy silence when a decision is made without you. And I realized, this wasn't new for me. In my family, conflict wasn't just uncomfortable, it was extreme. My mom, suicidal, was quiet. She said nothing. My dad, an alcoholic, would rage at the smallest things. I was 4 years old, sitting in a comfy chair, my feet soaking in warm water. My mom and I had walked into town, and a kind neighbor gave us a ride home. All of a sudden, my dad burst through the door, yelling and screaming, "Where is he? What's going on?" The dog ran, the water spilled. My mom cowered in the corner. I froze. Conflict meant fear. It meant danger. And I carried that with me into my adulthood, swinging between silence and explosion. Even with my training in psychology, I repeated the pattern and the cycle, including in my marriage. This one night, we're all dressed up, going out to dinner to our favorite seafood restaurant, the one thing we could actually agree on. We're driving along. All of a sudden, all these accusations started flying out of nowhere. It seemed I could never be enough or do enough. I froze. I didn't know how to respond. Arriving at the restaurant, I get out of the car and off he drives, leaving me stunned on the sidewalk. Eventually he returned, but the evening was ruined. It wasn't until I dealt with cancer that I really had to ask myself some deeper questions. Is this how you want your life to continue? Something has to change. When I trained in conflict resolution, mediation, bringing people together, piece of cake. I've been doing that all my life. Negotiation, that was hard. I had to bring in my needs. Can anyone else relate to that? Yeah. Conflict isn't the problem. Avoiding it is. When we learn to deal with it with skill rather than fear, it changes everything. And these moments are more common than you think. You might not label it as conflict, yet it leaves a mark. Moments when you're walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing. Moments when you avoid conversations that really matter. When you doubt yourself, your voice, your value, your place in the room. And it carries with you in all parts of your life. So let's talk about some ways we can look at conflict differently. I'm going to offer 3 shifts today for you to consider. One of the most powerful phrases I've ever learned is, be curious, all behavior makes sense. And your brain might be going, what? What did she say? Does that make sense? The power is in the pause. The pause allows us to choose differently. Curiosity allows us to ask the deeper question, what's really going on here? A colleague snaps in a meeting and your first reaction might be, what's wrong with him? Typical. Instead, we might ask, what's underneath that? Is there a fear? An unmet need? A story they've been telling themselves all their lives. Stories like, when I talk, no one listens. Or, I have to keep the peace no matter what, even if it costs me. And these stories don't just live in our words, they live in our bodies. Tight shoulders, clenched jaws, sleepless nights. And when we don't pause to get curious, we lose a beautiful opportunity to rewrite the story. Curiosity turns conflict into connection. It all begins with curiosity. Curiosity turns conflict into connection. It's not always easy. It does take practice, but it's well worth it. Curiosity opens the door, and when you step through, you might find something unexpected. Your emotions. And that's the second shift. We're all born wired to connect. Babies love faces, and within months, they're scanning the room. And what are they looking for? Something that we probably all secretly ask ourselves. Am I safe? Am I loved? Am I okay? And we need to do that when we're little. It's part of our survival, right? The problem is, as adults, we continue to scan the world, looking and asking, do I matter? Do I have value? Am I okay? I moved a lot as a kid, so I was the chameleon. And I'd be going into these new situations all the time. And I'd be like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Might just be easier if I say nothing and just stay in my little corner. The problem is we haven't learned how to find our answers inside of ourselves. How many of you have heard the phrase, you need to look within? Yeah, it's why the self-help industry is booming. The problem is, when we don't know how to do that, we take things personally. Someone doesn't respond to you in a meeting and you think, you don't respect me. A friend cancels at the last minute and you think, I don't matter to them. I used to have all these looping thoughts. What's wrong with me? What's the matter with me? Nothing. But the problem is we build these walls of silence when we don't understand our emotions and learning how to express them. We need to get over ourselves. We're human. We have emotions. Emotions are messengers, not enemies. And when we listen, really listen to ourselves, we stop taking things personally and we can begin to lead with compassion for ourselves and others. Curiosity turns conflict into connection, and that pause allows others to do the same. And then what do we have? Maybe a bit more clarity. And what do we see? Ourselves, our patterns, our triggers, our stories. And that's the third shift. Most of us believe we know ourselves pretty well, right? Yeah. In the book Insight, 95% of people believe they're self-aware. The research shows it's actually 10 to 15%. And that's a huge gap. And it matters because how you show up in conflict, in relationships, in leadership, all begins with how well you know yourself. Another study in AHEAD notes that self-aware teams have 50% less really contentious conflict and resolve it 40% faster. So why do we have all these problems? Again, it's that looking at our patterns, naming our triggers, and understanding what truly motivates us, not just what we do, but why we do it. I had a colleague and he really irritated me, and I made this assumption he was rude. When I looked deeper, I realized his tone of voice reminded me of my dad, just as he was about to escalate in anger. Or this one, where I had to dig even deeper. I was the one who volunteered for everything, pick me, even when my plate was overflowing. I realized it was so hard to get any of my mom's attention. I overdid everything just to get the little bit that I did. These insights don't come overnight, but it's worth it. It shifts not only how you are in conflict, but in everyday moments. And that's the power of self-awareness. We learn to lead with empathy, not ego. We get to stop the cycle of conflict, not by changing others, by understanding ourselves. And we open the door to more respect, trust, and real connection. So we've covered 3 powerful shifts today. The first, be curious. All behavior makes sense when you pause to understand. The second, don't take things personally. Your emotions are messengers, not enemies. And the third, know yourself. Self-awareness is the foundation of transformation. These aren't just ideas, these are practices. And they start in the smallest moments. Moments when someone says something that stings. Moments when you want to withdraw or talk louder to be heard. Moments when you feel your body tense, your voice shortens, your mind spins. So here's your challenge. The next time you feel triggered, whether it's at work, at home, or in traffic, pause. Take a breath, notice your reaction, and ask yourself, where are my feet right now? Presence is power. Not leaning forward in defense, not leaning back in retreat, standing, grounded in truth. Choose connection over reaction. Remember that backpack we carry filled with bricks of tension, fear, and resentment that we take with us to our work, our home, and our bed? The good news is that every pause, every breath, every time you choose curiosity, it's like taking one brick out until you put the whole thing down. That's the practice. One pause, one breath, one choice at a time. What would shift in your workplace, your family, your community, if more of us chose presence instead? If you remember one thing from today, let it be this. Curiosity turns conflict into connection. That connection starts with you. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more present ones. Put down the backpack and choose presence and connecting today.